Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be putting two new drugstore foundations up against each other and we're going to see which one performs better. I picked up these two foundations last week from the drugstore, the Maybelline, I believe it's called the 24-hour Superstay full coverage foundation, and then the new Revlon Insta-filter foundation. I used this foundation in a tutorial that I filmed last week that was up on my channel, and I promised you guys a review on it. Rather than put out a foundation review after foundation review, I thought it'd be fun to put these two to the test. So we're going to do one of these on my right side, we'll do the Revlon on the right side, and we'll do the Maybelline on the left side of my face, and we'll just compare them throughout the day. I'll check in throughout the day and we'll see which one is the better of the two. Okay, so I have fresh, clean skin. The only thing I have on my skin right now is the Drunk Elephant Retro Lala Whipped Cream. I have the Drunk Elephant Tinted Moisturizer on. I had put a little bit of concealer under my eye, but we're gonna need to touch that up anyway. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first we're gonna play with the Maybelline 24-hour Superstay foundation. I'm gonna read you some notes that I took off of their website so that I cover all my bases. Okay, so this foundation retails for $11.99 on Ulta's website. It comes in 16 shades. It's described as a lightweight, full coverage foundation. It is oil-free, and they describe it as having a breathable wear. It says 24 hours on there. I've said this multiple times. I don't know anyone that needs their foundation to wear 24 hours. We should all be washing our makeup off every single night. But if it gives me 10 hours of wear, then that's pretty much all I need. But let's go ahead and apply this. I picked up the shade Classic Ivory. I hope this is right. I had ordered this online a while back before it was in store, and I ordered the wrong shade, and it was way too dark, and so I never used it in a video. I don't think I did, but anyway, when I saw this in store, I went ahead and picked it up. So Classic Ivory is the shade that I got. It has a little pump right here. You do get 1 fluid ounce, which is pretty typical in foundations. I like that it has a pump. Again, this is the first, there we go, okay. So I'm gonna do 2 pumps. That's about how much you get out with 2 pumps. You can see the consistency, it's slowly starting to move down my hand, so it's not a really thick whipped consistency, but it's not really watery and liquidy as well. All right, I'm gonna use my beauty blender. I like to use beauty blenders when I'm working with full coverage foundations just because it gives me more of a natural finish full coverage. So I'm just gonna dip my beauty blender right into the foundation, and I'm gonna start in the center of my face. Pretty good coverage. I think the color is pretty good. I could have probably gone 1 shade up, but I prefer to, if anything, have my foundation just a little bit lighter and warm my face up with bronzer than to have a foundation that's too dark, because if it oxidizes on my skin, it's gonna look even darker throughout the day and look like I have a ton of makeup on. So I like the way that it's going on with the beauty blender. It's giving good coverage, but it doesn't look heavy yet. I mean, we'll see once this dries how it's gonna look. So it looks like I am gonna have quite a bit left on my hand, but keep in mind, I'm only doing half the face. So if I were doing the whole face with this foundation, I do think that 2 pumps would cover you. If you were using a brush, maybe you could use 1 pump, but with the beauty blender, you tend to use a little bit more product than you do when you use a brush. Okay. I don't want to use more than I need, so even though I have quite a bit left, I'm just going to leave it rather than try and build it and put on more than I need. Okay, so that's what 1 layer of this foundation looks like. I don't have anything on this side of the face, and then I have the Maybelline Superstay foundation on the left side of the face. So you can kind of see how that foundation, what kind of coverage that it gives. It gives pretty good coverage. I definitely would agree with the fact that this is a full coverage foundation. I mean, it's only been on my face for 1 minute, so it doesn't look heavy yet. Typically, if a foundation is gonna look heavy, it takes a little time to oxidize or really set for it to start looking heavy. So I'm not gonna praise this foundation too much yet. Let's go ahead and move on to the Revlon. So the Revlon Insta-filter foundation. This really caught my attention when I was grocery shopping last week. 1, because of the applicator. It has this sponge tip top here, so that's obviously different. I did read on the display that it said something about like being great for mature skin. So I thought that that was really great. I know that a lot of my viewers are looking for foundations for mature skin, so I wanted to pick this up to review. Let me read a couple things that I pulled off of Revlon's website so I don't miss anything. So this, it has a built-in blender is what they refer to it as. I'll be honest, when I tried to use this the first time, and I was not a fan of this applicator, I think that it's kind of pointless. It's described as giving a fresh-faced natural finish. The coverage, they say, is medium to buildable. It has high definition filter technology. It basically captures light to blur and soften imperfections, texture, lines in the skin. It does have an SPF of 20, which the Maybelline, I didn't read anything about having any SPF. I looked on the bottle, I looked on the website, and there was no mention of SPF. And this is described as having all day wear. They don't tag a 24-hour wear like the Maybelline does, but it is described as having all day wear. This retails for $17.99, so you know, quite a bit more than the Maybelline, which was $11.99. It comes in 12 shades. The Maybelline comes in 16 shades. But I did notice on Ulta's website that right now they're running a promotion, and they were running it at the grocery store that I bought this at too, where if you buy one Revlon product, you get one 50% off. So that might be a way to bring down the cost of this, or actually probably another product, because usually they give you the 50% off on the lower price. Anyway, I picked up the shade 210 Sand Beige, so we are going to work with this. I watched a video just now on the website of how to apply this, and I'm going to give this sponge tip another try. Quite honestly, I think that I like using a brush with this best, but we will see. So it has a little hole up here, and you basically just twist the bottom of the foundation, and you can see dispenses product up here. So the video showed it as you basically dab it on your skin, and then you blend. Yeah, this is a disaster. This is not what I would recommend doing, you guys. Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. Okay, so we are gonna roll it up, and I am gonna use this to apply it and to dab it on my skin, but I'm gonna go back, and to be fair, I'm gonna use the Beauty Blender to apply it, just because that's what I used with the Maybelline, and since I am comparing the two, I think that we should probably apply them similarly. All right. So I'm just going to go in and blend this in. I think this is a pretty good shade for me. It's, again, it's the Sand Beige, I'm going to say. Yeah, Sand Beige, 210. It's always nice when you can get the right drugstore foundation shade the first try. All right, so let me make sure that I have this all blended in, and then we will put a mirror up close and compare the two. I do think the Revlon dries a little bit quicker, so you kind of have to work a little quicker with it. It'd be one of those foundations that I would recommend doing one side at a time rather than applying it all over your face and then going and blending it, because by the time you get to the part of the face that's been sitting there longer, you might have a hard time blending it out. All right, so now we have both foundations applied. I'm gonna grab a mirror and kind of look at the situation that we have going on and give you my first impression, kind of my thoughts on how the two look. Okay, so, okay, to be honest, they look very similar. I really cannot tell a difference. I would have to be really nitpicking to try and find something to say right now that looks different between the two. They both look very similar. They both have a pretty full coverage. They do look heavier to me. They do look more made up. When I'm looking close in my skin, it's very apparent that I have makeup on. This doesn't have a natural finish in my opinion. Neither of the two really do. Yeah, they look identical. I really can't find anything to say that's different between these two right now. Although I do think that Maybelline has a tiny bit more coverage. I can still see some little freckles that I have right here barely peeking through, whereas the Maybelline pretty much covered everything. The only thing that's peeking through is this spot that I have here, which nothing really covers it because it is so dark. But I do see a little bit more of my skin imperfections right here in the center of my face with the Revlon. So that's the only thing that I can tell right off the bat, is that the Maybelline has a tad bit more coverage. I think the Revlon, you can build it to get more. Let's actually try and do that and see what we think, because it is described as a buildable. But the question is how much can you build before it starts looking really heavy, you know? So I just added a little bit more right there. Let's see if I can get more coverage there by adding more. Okay. I was able to get full coverage there. yeah, I was able to get more coverage, so that did cover it up some more. I'm not going to add any more because I feel like I already have a pretty full coverage makeup look and I really don't want it to look more than that. I know that in real life, if I weren't filming this video, I would not put more than I have on my face right now of either of these two foundations. So we're going to give this a full like real life wear test to see what we think. Okay, I am going to set both foundations and I'm going to use this mattifying powder by Wet n Wild. This was a drugstore product that I picked up last week when I actually got both of these foundations. And so I'm just going to set the foundation very lightly with this powder. I'm using the 139 brush by MAC. I'm not sure that they still make this brush because I was trying to link it the other day and I couldn't find it, but I'll link something very similar. Basically, I'm just using a very soft, lightweight stippling brush, so it's not going to pick up a lot of product. It's really just going to pick up just as much as I need. I don't want to apply a lot of powder. I just want to apply enough to set everything. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go and do the rest of my makeup. I'm actually going to film a tutorial using, what palette am I using today? Oh, it's over there. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. So I'm going to film a tutorial using that and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the rest of my makeup on. I did film a tutorial just now, so you guys will see this look in a tutorial, either just before this video goes up or just after this video goes up. I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, so you can, if you like this palette, be sure and check that one out. I did notice when I was applying my blush, I noticed that the area that I added more of that Revlon foundation, it was very hard for me to blend my blush out, like it just kind of stuck. So I felt like the blush and the bronzer went on a lot more smoothly on the Maybelline side than the Revlon side. But let's take a quick look real quick and just evaluate things before I leave you guys and then check back in a few hours. Okay, so honestly, these two foundations look very, very similar. It is really hard to find differences between the two. I already did mention that the Maybelline tends to have a little bit more coverage initially. The Revlon, you could build it to get more coverage, but again, it's just building it and adding more product. I did mention that it was more blotchy on the Revlon side when I was applying my blush. It took a little bit more work for me to blend that out. When I'm looking and evaluating things now, they both look pretty full coverage, and to me, they both look pretty heavy. The Revlon was described as having like a natural finish, but I don't really think that that's the case, at least with the amount that I put on. And I don't think that I put a whole lot on, but I'm noticing that both of them are building up around the nose. I kind of wish you could see that. Okay, when I check back in, we're gonna look really closely around the nose area because I can already tell that both of them are building up. The Maybelline tends to be settling in my pores a little bit more. Looks like I'm picking my nose, sorry. The Maybelline tends to be settling in my pores a little bit more here, but anyhow, we have just had this on for about 20 or 30 minutes, so I will check back in with you guys throughout the day. It is currently 10:30 a.m. I'll check back in around 2 and then probably again around 6 or so, and then possibly one more time. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But anyway, I'll see you guys in just a bit. Hey guys. Okay, so it's about almost 2:30. It's been about 4 hours that I've been wearing the makeup. I just took a look in the mirror at what is going on in my skin and I'm not really loving it. Mainly underneath my eyes, you can see that I've got transfer from either my liner or my mascara. That doesn't have to do anything with the foundation, obviously, but that obviously needs to be cleaned up. I looked at both sides. Again, I had the Revlon here and then I have the Maybelline on this side, and they both look about the same. I do think that the Maybelline is starting to settle in lines a little bit more so than the Revlon, but they both look pretty full and heavy coverage to me. Neither one of them looks like a natural full coverage at all. Both of them look really heavy to me, heavier than I normally would wear. I think that just off the top of my head, I've been wearing the Too Faced Peach foundation. Yes, I know that's not a drugstore foundation, but that foundation offers the same amount of coverage, but it has I don't want to say a natural finish, but just not as heavy looking as what's going on right now. So I do think that they look pretty similar. I don't feel like I'm overly shiny in either side. I don't feel like I need to touch up at this point. The only thing that I'm noticing is that on the Maybelline side, this little line here is starting to have product settle there more so than on the Revlon side. That's the really only distinguishing difference between the two. They look very, very, very similar, Both have built up around my nose, both look pretty heavy around the nose, but as far as like staying power, they both still look pretty good. There's not a lot of shine. My skin right now isn't really excessively oily. It's not dry either. It's kind of a good balance right now. So if that gives you some reference on kind of what my skin is dealing with right now. But so to summarize it, 4 hours later, neither one has produced a lot of shine. I don't really feel the need to touch up on either one. They still feel like they have stayed in place pretty well. Again, it's only 4 hours, so I would expect them to. The only difference between the two is that I think the Maybelline is starting to settle in my lines a little bit more so than the Revlon, but both of them have a pretty full heavier made up look to me, in my opinion. So I will check back in with you guys probably in another 4 hours. So that'll be 8 hours of wear, and we will see what we are dealing with. Okay, I'm not touching up with any powder today. I did set it with powder initially, if you'll remember, but I'm not going to touch up right now because I don't feel the need to. I'll let you know in my next check-in if I felt the need to and at what point that was. But yeah, okay guys, I'll see you in a bit. Real quick, I did want to mention I applied my makeup and I used the new Revlon eyeshadow primer, and I wanted to do a review of it in this video as well. So my eyeshadow has been on for about 4 hours and I think it looks great. I haven't noticed any creasing. It still looks really good. It's not fading at all. So far I'm really pleased with the eyeshadow primer. I will remember to check in on that too 4 hours later so we can see how that wears. Hey guys, so it is about 4:30 and I just wanted to do a really quick check-in on my cell phone camera instead of my Sony camera because my Sony camera tends to make my skin look a little bit better than it really does. I am thinking I definitely need to touch up right now. So at 4:30 the foundation has been on for 6 hours, but this is how we look right now. So this is the Revlon side. I can see that it's really building up around my nose and it's starting to kind of come off there, and then the Maybelline side. You're pretty much looking at the same thing here, but both of them definitely need a touch up at this point. So I'm going to lightly powder. We are going to go grab dinner as a family. We're going to be outside, and then I'll check in with you after that. So it'll probably be, so I'll probably check in with you guys later than 6:30 like I had originally planned. But I wanted to just give you guys a little quick look at it before I go and touch it up with powder so you can see what we're dealing with. So after 6 hours, safe to say that it's definitely, that both of them definitely need a touch up. All right, you guys, I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, so I just realized that I forgot to check in and show you how the eyeshadow was looking. It's almost 5 o'clock, so 6.5 hours later. You guys are distractions. Okay, let mommy film this part. Bye. So the eyeshadow looks really good. It's been 6 hours that I've had it on. Again, I've used the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows and the Revlon eyeshadow primer. So pretty good, pretty good. I would definitely say that this primer is a good one. All right, you guys, I will check back in later and we'll see how the foundation and the shadow is looking. Hey guys, it is coming up just before 9 p.m. I am ready to wash this makeup off my face and go to bed. I have all my lights on in my makeup room, so it's like really bright in here. So I've had the makeup on for just over 10 hours. I did touch up at the about 6 hour mark, around 4:30 I think it was, which is when I checked in last with you guys on the cell phone. Since then, we went out to dinner, we were outside, and then just kind of getting the kids ready for bed and all that. I haven't touched it up since then. So over the course of 10 hours, I've touched up once with a little bit of Laura Mercier setting powder, and that was it. I just took a look in the mirror and I want to kind of tell you guys what I see here. So the way that it looks to me right now is I have a considerable amount of shine in the center of my face. I don't think it's an excessive amount of shine considering that this foundation has been on my skin for more than 10 hours and I've only touched up once. I think this is pretty reasonable to have this like level of shine at this point. As far as like the sides and comparing the two, they both look so similar. It's almost really hard for me to point out like major differences between the two. To summarize it, I think the Revlon is not quite as full coverage as the Maybelline. Even though the Revlon gives really great coverage, it doesn't quite give the amount of coverage that the Maybelline does. I did have to build it. However, it is buildable, so that's nice. Sometimes it's good to have a foundation that's not full coverage. You know, just have a medium coverage foundation that you can build to get more coverage when you need it. So I would definitely describe the Revlon as being that, whereas the Maybelline is definitely kind of full coverage right off the bat. I also want to point out that it was a little harder to blend my blush and my bronzer on the side that I had the Revlon on versus the side that had the Maybelline. I mean, it wasn't terribly hard to blend, but that was one thing that I did notice between the two. As far as like heaviness and how they both look, I mean, they both look like a full coverage made up foundation. If you're looking for something really natural or sheer or you want that no makeup look, neither of these would be one that I would recommend. If you like more coverage and you don't mind having the look of makeup, then either of these would be a good option. Remember, the Revlon is $17.99, the Maybelline is $11.99, so a difference of about $6 there. Something to consider. The only areas that they tend to kind of build up in is definitely around my nose. On both sides, you can see that they did kind of build up and cake up around there. And then in my smile lines, I feel like in the Maybelline, you can see it more pronounced here in that line than you do here. This line is a little bit deeper in my skin too, so that's not really kind of a fair comparison. Overall, they're very, very, very similar. If you're trying to determine between the two, I would say the Maybelline because it's so similar to the Revlon and it's cheaper, but again, it's a little bit more coverage. So if you want something that you can have a little bit more wiggle room with and manipulate your coverage, then maybe the Revlon. I don't know if this video was super helpful, but hopefully it was. Yeah, no major differences are jumping out to me. So anyway, I'm glad I did this review. I picked them both up at the same time and I wanted to compare the two because they're both drugstore. They're both long wear, more fuller coverage foundations. So I thought, why not put the two against each other and see which one performs better. So I don't know if this video was helpful or not. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you guys like seeing these videos where I compare two foundations, to put two foundations to the test? If you do, let me know. I don't know that I'm gonna go out and buy a ton more foundations to do these types of videos. I mean, I'll buy them periodically when new ones launch, but I do have a large collection of foundations. So if you look at any of my foundation review videos and you wanna see me compare two of the ones that I've already done, then let me know and I can easily do that. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you guys have a great day and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. You guys, I keep forgetting. I feel like every time I do a check-in, I always have to come back and say, oops, I forgot, but I did forget to talk to you about the eyeshadow primer. So I'm pretty impressed with this eyeshadow primer, you guys. I think on my right side, it is starting to crease a little bit, but again, this is just over 10 hours later. And I think that I just started noticing just this one eye maybe about, I don't know, an hour ago. I feel like I did apply more primer on this eye. Maybe that's why it's held up better. But overall, I think this eyeshadow primer is a great, great drugstore eyeshadow primer. So I just want to kind of give you guys that little check-in. Okay, now I am powering off. Good night, guys. Bye.